previously on In Transition.
Challenges, some challenges are exciting. Some challenges excite you more because you're like,
I'm going to figure this
just
out.
let me get into this zone.
I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, guilty. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like attracted to things like that where I'm like, oh, there's
Yeah.
a problem that needs to be solved. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's
Hang
get
on,
in
I'll
and
be
solve
right
it.
there.
I got this.
Yeah.
But
Same here. I love
Yeah.
walking into a mess and then trying, and piecing it. And that's what probably has kept me in education for over 20 years because I wasn't doing the exact same thing. Like at one point, because even some people are like, okay, Christina, you passed your 3-year little mark. You're not moving.
Are you all right?
You good? Because I'm sure you're getting bored or something. But I was always, from one school, I moved to another school, and then they would move me into the new program, and then like, hey, can you come do this? Can you help over here? And so every couple of years or so, I was going somewhere, blowing out some fires and resetting the foundation.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it because once I got things set up and ready for the next person, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to hand this over and
Yeah.
move on. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's probably some people listening going, oh my gosh, the three of you are crazy. You like to go into a problem
Absolutely.
situation.
I will run into a burning building with no hesitation.
Yeah, but there's something, and this is not for everyone. This is not to like a
Not at
blanket
all.
statement that everyone likes to go into challenges. But some of us actually are like invigorated by that because we'd like to try and figure out things and make them better.
Yes.
But then what happens when you hit the frustration of you get into that situation? And I don't know if both of you have experienced this where you so badly want to make the thing better and you keep hitting wall after wall after wall. And you're like, I can't do the thing I want to do here.
Yeah.
Like I am being blocked and there's nothing I can do. Like I've gotten as far as I can get. What do you do then? We are so excited to be back for part 2 of this conversation. If you haven't listened to part 1, we encourage you to go back and take a listen. Now on to the show. What do you do then?
I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah. You're like, I cannot be effective here, right? Because I feel like as multi-passionates, we are passionate about making an impact in whatever we do. So
Yeah.
you get to a point where it's like, I cannot make an impact here anymore.
Yeah.
You start to be like, I'm out. Like I
Yeah.
can't do this.
I think the passion goes down a little bit because it's like, I kind of feel like this is what you brought me in here to do. And now I'm being blocked at every angle. So there's only so much I can do with what I have. What do I do?
What do I do?
Yeah. So in addition to just checking out mentally a little bit, there's a little mental checkout that goes on there, emotional checkout, because it's like I'm beyond my control and I am all about what do I have control over. And I've been in those situations where I've had to, even with my response and how I react to things and, I got to hold on in this space a little bit longer until there's, another something else opens up. But again, like I said, being intentional about what that is. When I think of a specific situation where I was in that, the wall, everything, it was just coming up.
Head brick wall.
And I would have to go in, lead this team, show face, engage with the students, and just put this smile on my face and act, and do the best I could in that school year. But I knew, my time there, I was like, yep, I can't, like, they're not letting me do anything else. And at this point, it's a wrap. So I wasn't intentional about what I wanted that next phase to look like. And I was just throwing my resume out. I was traveling all over the world, going on interviews, y'all. I don't like cold weather. What am I doing up here in Chicago?
Entertaining all the options.
Everything is on the table.
Well, and I think I always go to this scenario I play in my head, and a lot of people maybe this comes with self-awareness, and maybe you guys will say this too, where you're in that desperation mode.
Yeah.
Like, I just need to find anything that sticks versus, you know what? I'm going to be super intentional about this. I need to be aligned in whatever role I step into. It needs to feel right to me and my mission, my values. We tend to align with mission-driven organizations, I would say, as multi-passionates. Like, are you out to make a difference in the world, in people's lives on some level? And when we can't do that, or that doesn't align anymore, or you start to see underneath the hood and you're like, this isn't
Wow.
actually what I thought it was,
Wow.
it goes real
Yeah.
south for us.
Yeah.
Like, I
Quickly,
can't be on board with this.
quickly.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So being like, okay, am I in desperation? Like, I just need something, but also knowing like it's okay sometimes. I've had to let myself off the hook a number of times, just being like, this was a for now scenario. Like, I got to pay bills. Like, that's a real thing for people, right?
Yeah.
I got to pay bills. This may not be a forever thing. Like, I just
No.
need to
Yeah.
do something while I explore what else is out there. And for me, it's the weirdest thing. When I do that, when I relinquish that control, that's when things start to actually flow to me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys experience that? Where it's like
Yes.
opportunities start coming where you're like, I wasn't even really looking now. And these
Oh,
are actually
absolutely.
aligning. So
Currently.
energetically,
Yeah.
like trusting.
It's
And
almost
that's where it is. Yeah.
it's almost like when you give yourself permission to just be like, you know what? This is right now. This is a means to an end. And I'm just going to kind of hand it over to the universe, so to speak, and just do what I need to do to make sure that the end is met. And
Yeah.
it's almost like when that happens to me, I literally, when I get to that space, all that comes to my head is, you know what, just peace, be still. Let's just sit. Let's just sit with it, you know,
Yeah.
and see what happens. And that's when I don't know why my hand is raised.
I was like, you're raising your hand.
Like, yes, girl.
You have a question for yourself, and
Corey, you want to ask yourself a question? I don't even know how that happened because like my whole screen switched up, and I'm like, why am I in the left corner with my hand raised? Like, preach, girl. Yes.
Don't speak out of turn.
But I mean, currently, again, divine intervention. Currently, that's where I'm at, and it's just like last week. This is what it was like. This week, there's 5 opportunities on the table, and it's like now I have the luxury of figuring out which of these aligns with who I am and what I stand for, and is it going to give me the flexibility to keep doing what I feel like, not even what I feel like, what I know I was put here on this planet to do.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a privilege to be in that space though.
Yeah.
It's a legit privilege.
Yeah, we don't wake up in that space. You don't graduate college sometimes moving into that. I think, sometimes people want it's that microwavable mindset, or I want it now and I want to be able, and sometimes you have to work through some of those things to get to that space and to have that privilege. But we all have access to it to some level. We just have to get there. I know one of the big things for me when I being in that space of desperation. I mean, what was in 2012-ish, I think, when a lot of schools budget cuts got hit really hard. I lost my job at that time as well. So that was like there, and then I went into another job for a few years, and then that's when that brick wall came up again. And so I had that wall come up in different ways twice. But one of the things I had to, especially being multi-passionate and being so goal-oriented and trying to move to the next step, or trying to figure out, okay, where do I go now? And then if something comes up, how do I get over there quickly because I need to get out of here? And we know this because we're a little older now, but time moves quickly, right? And every weekend we're trying to get to, or every new job we're trying to get to, or every new whatever, we're rushing our life by like that. And so I look at that now and I'm like, even in those stressful job moments, I might be watching that clock a little bit like, okay, but I'm also trying to pan out, what can I do after I get off that will bring me joy, that will give me something to look forward to, or or before I go into work, wherever I can find that time. Because what I decided to do, and I made a promise to myself, you're not living for the weekend. You're not living for the end of the workday. You're not living for because at that point you have just now took that little, if let's say we live 85, 90 years, maybe let's say 100, we got $100 a year, $1 a year for each life. You're now taking your bank account and slashing that. And so now you're running around with $50 or $45 left to your, so just kind of thinking in that mindset for me, helped me be a little more intentional in my day, intentional in my actions, intentional in how I even look ahead, even in those desperate moments when I need to kind of just pull back in or have somebody help me pull myself back in and be like, okay, remind me of what I do have so I can't keep harping on what I don't at this moment, because that's just making me live life way too fast, and I want to slow it down a little bit.
I love that. I want to pause on that thought because that was like a nugget everyone needs to take in.
Legit nugget.
Are you living for the weekend or the end of the day where you're like, I don't have to do this job anymore? That is a really good like gut check.
Yeah,
because
it is.
That's probably not a job that's in alignment with where you want to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to immediately get out. Like we kind of said, like sometimes it's exploration. Oh, I need to like figure this out. Yeah. But I would also say when you're in that mode, you really have to be self-protective as far as like taking care of yourself. Would you say?
Absolutely.
Like I've been told you really need to like up level on your self-care practices. When I've gone through counseling and stuff, like make sure you take care of you if you feel like your energy is depleted or
you got to pour into yourself in some other bucket. You have to keep it balanced.
Otherwise it's a surefire path to burnout where you're just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't even function. Like I can't even enjoy the weekend now. I can't enjoy the weekend. I can't enjoy the end of the day. I'm just like tapped.
Yeah. And then
I will say that's where my multi-passionate energy has shown up for me, because I've had those other buckets to pour into when I felt like one was like just draining that water out too quickly. And then I'm like, well, let me go over here and play over here a little bit. And, and
let me move to this sandbox and let me go play with these people for a minute, because that'll restore what I'm being depleted over in that sandbox.
Figuring out what fills your cup. Some people don't know, and that's the wild thing too. It's like, well, what do you enjoy doing when you're not doing all the things you're obligated to do?
Right.
I remember there was a space of time when I was in therapy, and the therapist point blank asked me, what do you do for fun? And I was like,
what is that? What's fun?
What?
And I said, I'm sorry, what was the question again? And she just started writing, and I'm like, this is not good. But you have to, you have to. And Lauren knows, oh God, this is like my Achilles heel when I see stuff on social. Self-care Sunday, let me go get a mani-pedi. No. In fact, I commented on a Instagram post earlier this morning where this girl was, my self-care is my skincare. Really? Okay, I could go on about this for days. But like, and I literally commented, self-care is so much more than moisturizer. It's so much more.
And like, the mani-pedi. But I say like
the mani-pedi and the bubble bath.
Mani-pedi is with a really good friend and you're like having a conversation.
That's your social self-care. That's your social self-care. That's your social and your physical self-care. But people, I think people don't realize, there's a lot of people out here that just don't realize that you got to figure out the fun stuff. You got to figure out the stuff that balances out the other stuff, the ugly stuff, for lack of a better way of putting it, that you have to do for a space of time because it's your means to an end. If this is what you have to do Monday through Friday, what are you doing on Saturday and Sunday? I have a friend that has a very, very stressful job. She hikes. I mean, she just gets in the mountains of Utah and hikes. My cousin runs. My cousin travels a lot for her job. She runs. She loves, just getting in her car in Southern California and hitting wineries. I'm not going to say she's a wino because she's not, but she truly enjoys wine tasting. She has found those hobbies. She has found those things that balance out the stress of her Monday through Friday. And like to Lauren's point, there's a lot of people out there that haven't taken the time, or they legitimately do not know how to find those things.
Right.
And
for some people it switches. I'm a switcher. It could be, one thing. I mean, it goes back into that all over the place-ness energy. Yeah. It could be one thing this weekend that brings me joy and makes me smile. And then next week I'm like, what's going to bring me some joy and make me smile is everybody clear this house. I don't want not one thing. Take the plants. Look, take the plants, take the animal, take whatever is breathing aside from me out of this now. Yeah, but so it can switch up for people too. I think some people feel like, oh, I need to find something and I need to stick to it, and it needs to always be, if I want to go play tennis, so I said I need that to be my thing. It's like, no, just do it if that's what you feel like doing. If you want to run and take the kids to the playground and you want to swing too and have them push you, if that's
do it.
Make that happen if that's what brings you joy in that moment. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, be a switcher if you're a switcher, and if you like routine and that's where you find your joy, do that. There's no rules.
Yeah. No, and I think people, I'm I'd probably put this in a really broad category. I think that there are some people that feel that there is only one way to live your life. You have a 9 to 5, you have that one hobby, and that's it. No, that's not the only way to live your life. If you have 17 million different hobbies that you like to do, go do that. Whatever keeps you, balanced, whatever keeps you happy, whatever keeps you in a space of just like, man, my life is good, because you only get this one life. So if it keeps you in that space of, oh my God, I love my life. I get to see my family. I'm sitting around the table, and I'm doing all the things, then do that. There's no rules. There's no handbook that says you have to do A, B, and C, X, Y, Z in that order. No.
It's a conflict. It kind of I can't think what the word is right now, but the sentence that comes up for me when you said that is like, we only get one life, but in that life we get to live so many different lives.
Absolutely.
And and that's kind of where it's like you have to embrace, as I call it, embrace the and take that in, because there can be so many ands attached to your life, and you just have to welcome it in.
Yeah.
And be okay with that. Like you said, it doesn't have to be so
rote, I guess I'm saying. It doesn't have to be so structured.
Well, I feel like we fall into so many different traps like that. And another one, I see a lot of women, men too, fall into this trap of like the comparisonitis, I call it, of like, oh, you've got like 15 things. Like I remember a colleague doing this presentation about all his different hobbies he had. And it was like 40 slides of 40 different hobbies. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to like up my hobby game. I feel like I have nothing. But I'm like, that's some people.
That's right. You're right.
Or like, that seems like a really cool thing to do. Maybe I'll try that. I'm like, experimentation is good, but like, I draw this hard line sometimes, especially because I've seen this happen in like relationships, coupling, where we like take on the other partner's hobbies because we feel like obligated, or our partner makes us feel obligated. I'm like, no, I don't have to do that just because you do that. I'm like, I don't enjoy that at all.
Right. Yeah.
You go off and do that, because I think we're all individuals.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the best way to start a relation. I think sometimes we started, there's been moments where we started trying to make their hobby our hobby and vice versa, or whatever, and then it starts to fade out. And so that saying, typically what connected you is what breaks you sometimes. And so those things play into that. And so it's like from the beginning you'd be like, hey, I'll do this with you and try it out, but if you weren't feeling it and if you didn't like it, not my thing, but it was fun. I tried it. Maybe I'll come again with you, but don't expect this to be that can be your time doing what you enjoy doing.
My mom's a piano teacher, and she had this student once. He's no longer a student. I think Devin's a sophomore in college, and our families are super tight. And he was talking about, there was a girl that we met at one of their family's barbecues. So we were all sitting around at the Christmas recital a few months ago. And so Devin and I are sitting in this booth, and we're eating, I think, calamari and drinking lemonade and everything. I'm like, hey, what happened to whatever the girl's name was? He's like, I had to let that go, Miss Corey. And I'm like, why? What happened? He's like, she didn't have her own life after she started talking to me. And I'm like, whoa, you're 19. That's legit, because some grown men don't even know that. And he was just like, I kept telling her, go do your thing. You did stuff without me before we started talking. You don't have to be up under me all the time. I'm like, you know what? I'm so proud of you, kiddo. And
he didn't want to be in a codependent relationship.
Yeah, he was just like, he goes, she drew. He goes, she was an artist. I can't draw. I'm like, no, I've seen you try to draw. It's not pretty, but I go, she's talented. He goes, she gave all that up because she felt like she needed to be around me all the time.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, he goes, that's not going to keep our relationship solid. And I go, well, how'd that work out? He goes, well, you see, she's not here. And I'm like, okay, okay. It's okay to have your own individual life. In fact, please,
Right.
like you said, try something. If it doesn't work for you, at least you can honestly tell your partner, I tried it. This is why I don't like it. I'm going to go do
Or I just don't. I don't know why I don't like it, but I don't.
It's a no. It's a no for me. Yeah.
It's just a no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like boundaries. I'm like, we'll probably talk about boundaries on every single episode, I feel like. But this idea of self-abandonment kind of just snuck into that. Like, and women are like masters of self-abandonment. Where we like, yeah, I'll do that, or I'll do this thing that is not me at all.
Yeah.
And how long we can keep doing that before we start to kind of break. And you're like, I can't do this anymore. And then, if I can speak personally, it's ended relationships.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you do these things and hold true to who you are, not self-abandon? Because if you ever face that, Christina, where you're like, ooh, self-abandonment, like it's happening, like how do you bring yourself back out of it and then recognize it?
Yeah, I think one is that awareness, first of all, of just, okay, connecting those feelings, those emotions that you're having, those thoughts that may keep coming up. It sounds like just something that's consistent, that, okay, this needs to be addressed because it's just not, I'm not connecting here. That happened with me with real estate, to be honest. So when I first, because you think, okay, I got my real estate license, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sell and I'm gonna do and I did, and I had clients, teachers, co-workers, people. I was selling homes, I was working with people, and I realized when getting midnight calls wanting to put offers, I was like, yeah, no, that ain't happening. But just like, the randomness of some things. And then, because at that point, I was trying to debate on if I wanted to leave education fully and just completely rely and build a real estate career and do that. And I came to the realization through that explorative process of trying it, that I don't want to be reliable on this. I don't like, it's not fun when it becomes income that I have to like I'm relying on you to close on this house or purchase this property in order to pay my bills and to do this. And, and I need to be there for you. Like there's no time off really. Like you literally have to figure out ways to build that in or partner up with somebody to help. But, I felt like I don't feel like I'm a salesy person, which selling homes, you're not really there. Like you kind of just show them the property, give them all the information. But then there's the negotiation. There's the going back and forth with the seller or whomever. And I was just like, I'm so outside of myself right now. And I don't like this. It didn't feel, but I'm like, I don't want to give up my license either. So let me go see what else I can do with this license, so.
There's so much. There's
other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, trying to there was a moment, like you said, I think we mentioned earlier, when you've earned something and you work so hard to get something, and getting my real estate license wasn't an easy journey. It took a lot. But it was kind of like one of those where I tried to hold on. One, because I thought that was the only way to use it at that point. And then two, because I worked so hard to earn it that I was not going to lose it. So I extended myself, in addition to my full-time job, trying to really hold on to that. And I had to come into my own and say, all right, this this ain't it. And figure that out, and then just step away for a moment, finish working with the clients I was working with, and then was like, okay, I'm going to put my license on hold until I know exactly, the next direction I want to take. So I think sometimes we have to we don't do self-check-ins enough.
Yeah.
We're so passive in our movements and just kind of accepting things and kind of just going with the flow on things, or, just kind of moving and grooving in our own way, but we don't pause. Just to be and to check in. And so I think that that is really important, especially when you're feeling yourself outside yourself in a way that's not like you're looking back at yourself like, girl, what are you doing? What?
Who are you?
What?
What?
Yeah.
Like,
you
you don't like this.
Yeah, I've had so many of those moments in my life. Like, what were you doing?
Like, wow.
So yeah, it's that recentering your energy, checking back in, checking in, doing a full check in, and then just kind of again, intention is another word of this conversation, but setting that intention on what it is you are seeking and put it out there. I need to know, this is what I need to know in this moment. This is what, I need access to in this moment, or whatever that may look like. Put that out there and then just kind of try to pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
And only control what you have control over, and just move along with what you don't, and then watch things come into play for you.
And I think that in and of itself is yet another way in which you honor yourself and you are exercising self-care.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you're removing yourself from an environment. You're somewhat removing yourself from an environment. You are really getting back in tune with getting to know who you are. So there's that emotional, there's that mental, there's that spiritual realignment, so to speak. And that's just a massive honor that you can give to yourself. And you're right, we don't do those self check-ins enough, because I think we all get so caught up in the rat race of life, and everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
Just we need to be more like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Who am I? Does this still look like me? Am I still moving as me? And it's a slippery slope that you get on when you find yourself in that space, because you so desperately want to do a self check-in, but everything is so go 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 go, and it's just like, you got to slow down, because if not, you are going to crash and burn into that brick wall way quicker than you probably should. And you can't stop it.
You don't have to wait for the low point or the rock
Yeah.
bottom like so many of us do. You're like, oh my gosh, there's
I
like
know.
nowhere to
Yeah.
go but up because I'm at my rock bottom.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to wait that long. And so many of us do. Like, we
Yeah.
hit that proverbial rock bottom, and it's like, okay, now I have to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why
I
wait
think
that
one
long?
of the and with the self check-in, I think one of the things we often neglect, and for some of us it's just downright uncomfortable. One, maybe because we just haven't been able to do it enough, or there's things we need to address, maybe in therapy, counseling of some sort. But it's being in that quiet space with ourselves. Turning off the music, turning off turning off the visuals, the scrolling, all of that, and really just sitting with yourself, even if just for 5 minutes. I promise, if you put that intention out there and you sit for just a few minutes, something is going to come to you that's going to be very valuable. In just listening to yourself, not listening to lyrics or song, from, that are now getting implanted in you, or visions from the scroll or whatever. But just really finding that quiet time to sit peacefully with yourself. We don't do that on the toilet. We don't do that in the bathroom. We don't do that.
People are walking into the bathroom with their phones. I'm like, what are you doing?
Hey, there's no downtime, Corey. There's no downtime.
You are not taking pictures. Fingers crossed.
We are so deconditioned from tuning into ourselves. I mean, it's so long of a conditioning, because we become conditioned to that as soon as we enter the world in a way that you just don't have those moments and make those moments. Like I said, some people are just uncomfortable with it, and depending on why this level of comfort is, there may need to be an extra support seek for that. But
use your resources
absolutely but just sit with yourself peacefully, turn it all off, and I mean, be amazed at what you may find in that. And that has been a huge help for me, even as I, do I try this? Do I not? Do I see what it's about? Do I give up on it? Do I move on? Or, whatever. And I learned, that what I thought was failure when I would stop doing something or transition or pivot into another direction was not at all, because trust, believe, I said it something like, it's like the one hit wonder. Like there maybe is one hit wonder, but that song, them lyrics, I'm carrying with me into that next song. And, eventually I'm putting this whole compilation of Christina's life together, and it's going to be a beautiful sound. But you have to be able to embrace that, honestly.
I have a friend that, go
it's
ahead.
difficult for some people, right? To sit in that silence. Like it's something they've never done. And it's funny, you're reminding me of someone I was coaching recently where I kept telling her, I'm like, you know what to do. We lose touch with this inner knowing, right? That tells us, call it intuition, call it your spidey senses, right, Corey? We have really good spidey senses, but I was like, slow down, tune in. You know what you need to do. You know what the next right action is for you.
And that's the thing. Everything that you need to know is already within you.
Absolutely.
But there is so much noise and just the Charlie Brown teacher, the womp 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 head, that you can't even hear it, because all that stuff has more or less taken precedence over what you need to do. I have a friend. I love my friend Nate. I love him absolutely. I'm sure he's listening. So hi, Nate. Nate is constantly challenging himself in every way, shape, and form that you can even humanly think of. And so his latest was he and I mentored together in an elementary school. And so I sent him a text, and he has his red receipts on. And so I sent him this text, and like 4 days later, he still hasn't read it. I'm like, did I do something to upset him? Like, what did I do? And I happened to see his wife, and I'm like, where's your husband? She's like, oh, he's on a silent retreat. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so she's like, yeah, he did this 10-day silent retreat. And so he comes back, so I like 4 or 5 days later, I get a response to the text. So he and I are at coffee one day. And so he's telling me about this retreat. He's like, it's 10 days of total silence and meditation. And I'm like, what? He goes, you check your phone. He goes, there's no phone, no books, no music, no exposure to the outside world. And he goes, and you really start to realize that it is what it is. And that's how you have to deal with the things, and that's how you need to approach things, that you don't have all these outside influences getting into your head, be it social media, be it the news, be it music, be it books. And you just have to start looking at stuff in its bare bones. And he goes, I think he said the first couple of days he just slept, because you don't realize how much of a high you work on. Yeah. And when all of that stuff is taken away, it's a letdown, and you find yourself exhausted. And so he said it was really hard, but he's like, I think everybody needs to go through it. It's so beneficial, because you leave with such a different perspective on things. You realize you're not electronically attached to your phone or to your tablet or to your computer, and it reminds you how to get back to the basics, And so he challenged all of his friends to do it. And so I am currently waiting for if I got in. And I'm like, oh God, 10 days in silence. But at the same time, I'm super excited about it, if I get to do it, because I think it's beneficial. Because when all those things are taken away from you and you are left to literally your own devices, your intuition, your heart, your mind, your body, you get back to basics. It's a recalibration of things that everybody needs.
Absolutely.
100%. And I bet the noise, the internal noise, is super loud in the beginning.
Yeah.
You're hearing lots of things in the silence.
Yeah. And it's like, stop, I can't do this anymore. So I mean, I always have admiration for the stuff that he's constantly challenging and constantly pushing himself on every level to just, for lack of a better phrase, be a better human. And so it's a good thing. I think everybody should do that in ways to the limit that they are comfortable doing it with and doing it in,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a great segue, Corey, because I was thinking we should get to wrapping this up. We could talk to Christina for probably another 2 hours. We'll have to bring her back for another conversation. But there's been plenty of nuggets throughout this whole conversation that people can go back to and re-listen. But I always like to leave people with something at the end. And I'm thinking through this, embracing the multi-passionate, because this really was about like learning to embrace that for those that are identifying as multi-passionate. Maybe you're hearing this for the first time, because this is new to me, like that this is a thing. So I'd love to know, Christina, leave listeners with some advice about embracing their multi-passionate selves. They're all over the place-ness.
They're all over the place energy.
Love that. Love that phrase.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, you know, we've said it repetitively, listening to yourself and silencing everything and just listening from within, listening to how you speak to yourself, how you talk about yourself, and tuning into that, and then just be open to learning and exploring. And that could be, you know, trying new things. Be curious, be all in curious about anything that comes up to you, whether it's fear, whether it's excitement, whatever energy you're feeling pulled or pushed away from, whatever you're in that moment, just be a little more curious and dive into that curiosity and be and just listen to what you have to say to yourself when all is said and done, when you got all the external advice that you may have sought out or read all the books or listened to all the, you know, things that are out there, whatever it may be. When you sit with yourself in that quiet zone, whether it's through journal, whether it's just through mindfully just sitting and being, connect with that and embrace it. If there's a lot of conjunctions in that, if there's a lot of ands being added onto that, embrace that. You know, don't feel like you need to be put in a box. I know for me, sometimes I like to say that I have a methodical approach to things, and then people might laugh at it. I'm like, girl, bye, you are so out of, but I like to plug into systems, but then I like to take what I've learned from those systems and then play with those a little bit more too. So sometimes we might think, but I like systems, I like structure, I like this, but then when you really get into your flow, you realize you kind of like the start of it and it kicks you off, but once you start playing, you start growing and expanding beyond that. And so I just say, you know, embrace all of that. Know that your focus may change, but realize what your focus is in this moment, what your priorities are, but embrace the change as they come to, and be okay with that. If something needs to be get put to the side for a moment, put it to the side. It'll be there when you're ready to pick it back up. Yep. FOMO doesn't have to be a thing that rings in your head all the time that you're going to miss out on something, because trust me, what's there will most likely be there when you're ready for it, and it'll be ready for you. Yeah. So just embrace all of that. Embrace all of who you are, whatever that looks like, whether it's multi-passionate or you feel like you're not. I don't know. I feel like we all have a little bit of that all over the place-ness energy in us in some perspective. So take it, run with it, and just be you. Be that human being, not just that human doing. You know it.
Yeah. And realize like you're not one-dimensional.
No.
Right? Many facets to us. So Christina, what are you currently in transition around, or what are you feeling is like next for you?
Yeah. So I'm feeling like I'm at a space where I am piecing a lot of all of those explorative adventures that I went through and have gone through and continue to go through. But I'm like piecing it together in my retreat within community. So I'm excited about that, because it allows me to pull in from the education to the real estate to the fitness, health and wellness, just kind of pulling a lot of those relationships and everything into that space through I do journal-based coaching, so which is another kind of just allowing people to be with themselves before I jump in and provide, you know, that coaching support there. But I do that with the human design insight included in that. And so I just feel like, you know, kind of things are starting to be like, I'm like, okay, my journey had a purpose. There was reasons I was turning left and right and going on
U-turning.
U-turns, 3-point turns, all the turns.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, everybody's life, I think when we look at it overall, we don't always have that bird's eye view or get to have that, or not everybody has that visualization ahead of them, where they can see where they're going, but trust and promise me that there's purpose in your steps right now. So believe in that. And that's where I am. So that's what makes me excited about my transitioning right now.
I love that. And that makes me think about how, if someone's wondering if they're a multi-passionate, because I always think about it like a linear path or not. Like some people follow a very linear path. And to me, those people are probably not multi-passionate.
No.
Like they've been able to stay focused, follow that linear path. If your path has looked like all over the place, U-turns, full-on stops, backups, like that could be a good indication that you identify as multi-passionate.
Yeah. If you have difficulty answering that question, so what do you do? Well, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
you know?
I
I don't know. All the things, whatever excites me, whatever sparks my heart. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And saying that is totally okay.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
Absolutely.
I definitely know that we're going to have Christina back on because we didn't even touch the human design component of Christina. And I know that, like I said earlier, I think even before we started recording, that's a thing, that's a big thing these days. And so I definitely want to have Christina back on our podcast so we can talk about all things human design.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So,
but in the meantime, where can people find you, Christina, if they're interested in what you're doing in the world?
Yeah, and you might find me you'd be like, what is she doing? No.
All the things.
All the things, guys, all the things.
All the things.
Well, let's start with the human design things, because we just ended on that note. Where if people are interested in learning more about human design and what you do to support them through that, where can they find you for that?
Yeah, my website is probably the perfect spot to pop in, and that is stinagene.com. STINAGENE.com. And yeah, you can go to my website. You can download your human design chart. When you download your human design chart, you'll also have access to a sample of the energy guide, which is me taking your human design chart and making it readable, making it accessible to you. And so it's a 55 plus page document, but the sample is probably about 15, 20 pages. I think I include a lot of the foundational information. And then if you decide to move forward with the full on energy guide, you can get access to all your energy centers. You'll be a part of a retreat within community. So you'll have access to the journaling, coaching, where then you'll have more insight into your energy gates and centers and planets information and all of that. So it's very comprehensive, but as an educator, I try to take an educational approach and use the coin word differentiate instruction for everyone, so it's accessible and make it relatable to your life, so you can actually use it in your everyday life now. So stinagene.com is where you can find me. I'm also on Instagram. I post a lot of quotes and just some information, some human design information, some general information at Love Stina Gene. And so you can follow me there as well.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. This has been such a great conversation. To Corey's point, we're so excited to have you back in the future, because we go down so many different roads.
So many different transitions with you as a multi-passionate that, I mean, you could be a whole season.
And we know our listeners are going to get so much out of what was said here. And so thank you. And
thank you
look
both.
Forward to future conversations.
So
thank
good
you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We appreciate our listeners more than you could ever know. If you liked any part of what you heard, please do us a favor and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're willing to go a step further, we would love for you to leave us a review and send this episode to a friend that you feel would be served by it in any way. We are so excited to finally share more about Catalyst, the community that we are building in conjunction with this podcast. Our mission with Catalyst is to create an authentic, safe, and inclusive space for heart-centered, growth-minded, multi-passionate women to navigate their life's transitions by building meaningful relationships, learning from one another, and growing into the best version of themselves. and maybe even make the world a little bit better in the process. If you're interested in becoming a founding member of Catalyst, we would love to learn more about you and have you apply at wearecatalyst, all one word, .social. We only have a limited number of spots for this founding member round, so be sure to get your application in soon. Again, the website to apply is wearecatalyst.social. We look forward to the possibility of getting to know you on a deeper level and supporting you in navigating your life's transitions. We cannot wait to have you join us for the next episode. Until then, we encourage you to lean into your community and embrace the growth that inevitably happens when you're in transition. See you guys next week.